Welcome to Freedom from Fire. As always, we'll take a look inside the Philadelphia Fire Department and how we operate. Today, we're talking fire safety with a focus on summertime. What do you need to do when you're traveling? How can you stay prepared no matter where you are? We'll help make sure you're good to go. Coming up next on Freedom from Fire. Stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, firefighter Camila Bayete Taylor. I'm currently stationed in our department's Fire Prevention and Code Division, where community risk reduction efforts are a primary goal. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of living by giving you fire and life safety information. We also introduce you to our local safety partners and department leaders. This is the last show of the season as we are quickly approaching the end of the school year and summer break. For thousands of people, that means traveling, spending time in the sun, and grilling outside. But we want to make sure you enjoy all of those things safely. To help me out, I'd like to welcome our guest today, Lieutenant Mike Kirby. Welcome, Lieutenant. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you.
All right. So let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with the Philadelphia Fire Department.
Okay, again, I'm Lieutenant Michael Kirby. I'm currently assigned at Engine 55 on the B Bravo platoon. Been there almost 2 years now. I started about 9 years ago almost. Goes very fast, that's for sure. My journey to get to the fire department took a little while. I actually always wanted to be a firefighter ever since I was little. Never had any family involved. I don't know why, it's just something I always wanted to do. I actually volunteered first when I was very young. Kept taking tests. I actually worked in Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. for a little over 4 years. Kept taking the fire department test, and eventually I was able to get on. I got lucky, so.
Interesting. Yeah. And so what led you to, you said you were working in Maryland, in Prince George's County.
Yes.
What led you to want to become a firefighter with the PFD?
So I grew up in Ben Salem, just outside of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia Fire Department was always the elite department in this area, so I always wanted to be a part of it, and it was like a stone's throw away from me, so he just kept working at it, worked hard, and was able to finally get on. So.
All right. Now, how long, you say you've been with the department for 9 years. Yes. What's your current role now in the Philadelphia Fire Department?
Currently being assigned to Engine 55 on the B platoon. I'm in charge of an engine on the platoon. I'm in charge of 4 or 5 members. We respond to any kind of emergency, fire, EMS calls. We're also responsible for some CR, community risk reduction, such as smoke detectors. We go out and visit schools sometimes, just kind of engaging the public as best we can.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I think I ran into you at a school.
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. So what are some of the other roles that you've held within the Philadelphia Fire Department?
Okay, so as a firefighter, I actually operated and was assigned to our hazardous materials unit for a little over 2.5 years. That was a pretty unique opportunity. And then I was in our planning unit as a firefighter and then as a lieutenant, where we did a lot of special event planning for the fire department, for like planned and unplanned events, presidential visits, kind of anything you can think of. Did a lot of data collection, data entry, and kind of any special project you might think of. So it was pretty cool. Got to work with a lot of internal, external partners. So it was very good opportunity, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, how long were you in that role within planning?
About 3.5 years total.
Okay. Okay. And what was it like for you going from planning back out into the field into 55s?
It was a little interesting, not hard transition, but you're going from dealing with phone calls every day, conferences, never know when you're going to get an email or phone call from somebody to kind of in the firehouse, a lot less to worry about. So you're more on a day-to-day basis. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we talked a little bit about your beginnings, kind of where you are now. We are going to dive a little bit into some safety talk.
Okay.
All right, as the weather gets nicer, day by day, we know we're going to have more cookouts, more grilling.
Yes.
So let's start with grilling safety.
Okay.
All right. What are some of the common situations we see with fires involving grills?
So it's one that I see the most and you hear about the most. You see a lot of people keep their grills way too close to their homes, and they keep them underneath the deck railings and there's awnings and the eaves. So they light the grill that maybe catches fire, lights the siding on fire. So we want to make sure we prevent that. So I always tell people, keep the grill as far away from the house as possible. Make sure it's not underneath anything. And I also see a lot of people, they use them on balconies. We routinely get calls for smoke on a balcony, maybe on like the 7th, 8th floor, and we get up there and it's somebody just using a grill, which is very unsafe, but then it's even worse on the balcony and then using a lot of resources to check out a grill, basically, so.
Yeah, and that's good for people to know, because a lot of people, they just don't know. And
Yeah, and that's the thing, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, so hopefully through this program and through our outreach, we can educate people. And,
Absolutely, absolutely. So what kind of preventative measures should people take to avoid grill fires?
So first, we always teach, like, clean your grill often. Start by removing the grease on the top and the bottom tray as well. I think a lot of people do forget about that bottom tray. They're focused on cleaning the top. Always make sure you're cleaning that bottom tray out as well. Look for any buildup of any grease. And another thing is never leave your grill unattended. If you're grilling something, always make sure you're standing right there with it, especially if you have young children around.
Yeah.
Sometimes if the fires happen, you leave something unattended, you forget about it, get distracted, and next thing you know, your grill goes up in flames. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we had last year, this season, but last year, late last year, we had firefighter Leo Masonette on. He was talking about cooking fires. And one of the things he said, which we like to mention a lot when we go out to do presentations, is if you're cooking, taking something, if you're stepping away, take something like an oven mitt or a spatula or anything like that. So it's the same.
And that can be applied with the grills as well. Yeah, make sure you have something there just in case.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So what about gas grills versus charcoal grills? What are the differences and what are some of the unique challenges that each present?
So for the gas grill, it's utilizing the propane tank. So for that, you're going to have to worry about leaks possibly in your line. So as we always teach, you always want to check it before you use it for the first time every year. Check for leaks in your hose line. And you can actually do that by applying light soap and water solution to the hose and turning your propane tank on. If there is a leak, you'll see little bubbles forming. So if you do have a leak, we advise you to turn it off right away and then get the barbecue either serviced or fix it, or get a new one.
Okay.
If you smell gas at any time with the propane tank, we always ask you to turn it off. If there's any other issues, call the fire department.
Okay.
And then we always advise that if you're ever not sure, that's what we're here for. So if anybody's ever not sure if there's about the safety of their grill, if a leak, just always make sure we're calling 911. So.
Okay.
For the charcoal, obviously it uses charcoal, a little bit different. We advise only use charcoal starter fluid. Sometimes people like to use different gasoline or something, other kind of not right, substances to start the fire. So make sure we're using the right product. And then when we're done, make sure we let the coals completely cool down before disposing of them. Sometimes people will just dump them off anywhere. They can start a little rubbish fire. So, so we have different types of grills, but we always want to make sure we're doing everything safely.
Now, you mentioned with the propane, with the gas grills, is there, in terms of like proper storage of propane, are there any specifics there?
I always make sure that the propane is stored away from the house. Keep it away from any kind of potential flammable liquids or anything like that, other flammable substances. Also try and keep it away, especially if you have a drought season. Make sure there's not like leaves or any sticks built up near it. That way there's no chance it could possibly catch fire.
Okay, now what if a fire does break out? What should someone do in that case?
So if your grill does catch on fire, hopefully it never does, but God forbid it ever does, we ask you if you can safely attempt to try and turn the burners off if you can. That'll also may help prevent some of the fire from spreading. And try to remove the food if you can. You can actually smother the fire if you have baking soda. I just read this. You can try and put that on the fire. Or if you have a little dirt or some sand, to try and smother the fire as well. We do say never, because this is technically kind of a grease fire, never put water on the fire, because actually on a grease fire, if you put water on it, it's actually going to splatter and could spread the fire and make it worse. Then we also want to tell you, close the lid, and that also will help. Fire needs oxygen to survive, so if you close that lid, it should hopefully eliminate some of the oxygen. If you can't do any of these things safely, we ask you just to call 911, and we'll be there, and we can help put the fire out for you.
Okay.
And again, emphasize, if you do try and do any of these steps, make sure you're doing it safely. You can be done safely. So.
Okay. Now, are there any other safety measures surrounding grilling that you think we should mention?
Just a couple. Just one is always use your grill outside. Surprisingly, you do get calls sometimes. You see people using them inside the house, or even on the balcony. That's still considered technically inside if it's enclosed. So making sure we're always using the grills outside. And if you ever have any doubt about the safety of the grill, make sure you either don't use it or get it serviced first. And always inspect it, not just at the beginning of the season, but periodically throughout the grilling season.
That's the ongoing maintenance.
Yes.
Preventative.
Yes, and sometimes
measures.
people, they're focused, they remember to do it in the beginning of the season and then forget about it. So.
Okay. Now, let's talk about general home safety. In the summer, we have many families coming together for reunions, cookouts, barbecues. There can be a lot of people in one place at the same time. What should families do to make sure their home is ready and safe before visitors come?
So before visitors come, always want to make sure we always start off with smoke detectors and CO detectors. That's always a big priority for us. Make sure you have them, make sure you test them. Sometimes people are like, oh, I have the 10-year smoke alarm. Well, make sure you're still testing that battery. It's very easy to do. You just press the button, make sure you have them in every floor, near every bedroom, and CO detectors as well. Also, you want to think about who's actually coming to your house. So for example, if you have small children like I do, we go to different people's homes. Sometimes they're not the most child-proof. So like, child-proof your house if you have small ones coming. Covers on your electrical outlets for one. Kids can get very curious. Your cabinets, especially under the sink and under the kitchen, make sure they're locked, child-proof locks, because again, you never know what children can get into. Your stairs, make sure they're blocked if you don't want children going down certain stairs. Child-proof locks on the doors if needed. So, and then secure anything you think that a child might. If you think a child could get hurt by it, make sure it's secure and they can't get to it. Something that, people don't have children, they may not think about that. If their children are older, they forget. And then, kids will find things, that's for sure. I have a 5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old, so they will get into it, that's for sure.
Yes.
So, if you have elderly people coming over to your house too, make sure your carpets are secured. Like we're trying to avoid the slips, trips, and falls. If you have any kind of wires you're running through, make sure they're either taped down or eliminate, kind of remove them if you can. Avoid clutter in the hallways. That'll, again, prevent the slips, trips, and falls. And I was also thinking, be mindful of their medical history as well. And like, if they're diabetic, if they need to be eating, sometimes they're at the party, they may forget about it. They may get too engaged in conversation, have too much fun. So make sure and then if they also have medication they have to take as well. So kind of making sure that we're keeping on there about their medical needs as well. And then some general tips. Make sure everyone is familiar with the layout of your house or the place you're at. Some people may never been there for the first time. And, as anybody knows, if you have a fire, God forbid, or even if your house fills with smoke, it is hard to see. And if you're in an unfamiliar territory, it might be hard to get out. So make sure you're going through so everybody understands how to get out, 2 ways out. And a lot of times, too, my wife does this a lot, too. When we have people over, we'll light candles. Make sure your candle's away from anything that could possibly fall into it. And if you're not in the room, blow the candle out. And again, out of the reach of small children if they're there. So.
Excellent. Thank you for all that.
Oh, no problem.
Yes. All right, so we're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll talk about what to do when you're traveling to make sure you, your friends, and your family stay safe. There's more Freedom from Fire after this.
As birthplace to the first volunteer fire companies, Philadelphia is home to one of the nation's premier fire museums. Fireman's Hall Museum displays the city's fire history in addition to promoting fire safety. You can visit Fireman's Hall Museum in Old City at 147 North 2nd Street. Visit firemanshallmuseum.org to learn more or watch the museum's show, Curator's Corner, on LaSalle TV.
I drive 65,000 miles each year in my bus. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. You don't want to be in the blind spot of a 40,000-pound bus when I have less than a second to react. I do what I can by changing lanes and taking turns slowly. It really helps when people look out for me too. Give me room to operate safely. It's our roads, it's our safety.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, kids' teams, where you worship, work out, or any other place or group where you choose to belong. Communities can provide support when you need it, and even when you don't know you do. like when it comes to preventing underage drinking and other substance use. Community members can be your eyes and ears when you're not with your kids and alert you to signs of potential problems.
Dear University of...
Thank you for your offer.
To become student ID number 283471.
While I appreciate your desire
For my impeccable academic record,
I must decline the opportunity.
to get a generic degree,
I've decided to tell my story.
To be a student.
not a statistic.
I wish you good luck in the future.
As I embark on mine.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, firefighter Camila Bayete Taylor. This is the final show of the season, and today we're talking summer safety. My guest today is Lieutenant Mike Kirby. On the first half of the show, we talked about fire safety related to cookouts, grilling, and also making sure your house is fire safe for visitors. Now, let's talk about travel and some things to keep in mind when you're away from home. All right, so Lieutenant, let's say someone is going to be away from home for a few weeks while traveling. What should they do before leaving town to make sure their house is fire safe?
First thing I suggest, do a thorough walk through your house to kind of make sure everything looks okay. Make sure any candles may be out. Sometimes you light them, you forget about them. Make sure they're all blown out. If you see any leaves outside or any firewood are stored away from your property, you don't want that right up against your house. Any combustible material, make sure they're safely stored outside your home. Sometimes people like to put their propane tanks close to the house or gas for the lawnmower. Make sure that's away from the house, that way there's no possible issues. And then talk about maintenance of your furnace too. Sometimes you have furnace issues when you least expect it. Make sure it's up to par, everything's good to go on it before you leave for a few weeks. And we also suggest maybe invest in a home security fire system. They're becoming more and more popular now. You can monitor your home from afar basically, so if you know something's happening, you can know right away. And I also read somewhere, make it look like your home too. That'll also help prevent people from possibly breaking into your home. So.
Yeah, leaving lights on,
Yeah.
and those types of things.
Yeah, you don't want people to think you're not home for a couple of weeks. So yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, appliance-wise,
Yes.
should people be unplugging their appliances when they leave the house?
They should. We highly recommend that because obviously electrical fires are one of the leading causes of fires. So if you're not home, you never know what can happen. So we advise you to unplug, anything from stoves, lamps, TVs, coffee makers, anything you have, chargers. It's better to just unplug it just to be safe. Also, if you are going to leave stuff plugged in, sometimes people like to leave lamps plugged in. Make sure that the wire's okay on it. It's not frayed. Make sure your outlet's okay. There's no issues with it. So check all that beforehand.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say like something I picked up in my time in the fire department is just the importance of how important doors are
Yes.
in protecting, so like closing doors when you leave the house and,
Yeah, that's a good
God,
point too. Yeah.
God forbid if a fire started.
Yeah, you can at least keep it isolated in the one area, hopefully.
Exactly, exactly. So would it be helpful to talk to neighbors who might be able to keep an eye on your place?
Yes, I think that's very important. You can talk to your neighbors, tell them, hey, I'm going away for a couple weeks, can you keep an eye on my house? Actually, also be beneficial if they had a spare key to your house as well. Sometimes we may get a call where the fire alarm might be going off in your house, and if we can't get inside, we don't want to break your door down for no reason if we don't have to. So
Right.
if they can have access, have them look over your house, make sure everything's okay. So it's ever a good idea to have more eyes in your house, the better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so we talked about what we can do at our own homes. Now, what do we look for when we're staying somewhere that isn't our home?
Well, first and foremost, again, smoke detectors. That's always big. And CO detectors. If you're in a hotel, motel, they should have them, obviously. But sometimes you may be staying in an Airbnb or a house down the shore. So make sure you have them, that they're there. You can test them, make sure they're working. If your house doesn't have them, I'd recommend go out and buy them if you have to, just to make sure they're in the house. Right? You don't want to ever risk not having a smoke detector in the house. Other things you can do is kind of just looking at the house. Make sure you become familiar with the house, the layout. That can be big too, especially if you have smoke in the building, you're not familiar with it. So kind of just know what it looks like in a clear environment. So God forbid if there is smoke, and know your two ways out.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, important. Always have two ways out.
Yes.
That's another thing we say when we
yeah.
do the presentations. Yeah, always having two ways out. And two ways out can be a door and a window.
Yes,
you know,
just any
that's
two
what-
ways out, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may not be possible, but just, always look for that. If something were to happen, how can I get out? What's the best way to get out? Yeah.
Yes.
Especially if you have small children too, like I do, make sure they are familiar with how to get out, just in case.
And if you're traveling with family, we talk about the importance of having an escape plan, home fire drills, things like that. When you're going away, how important might that be to maybe do that with your family when you're
It's
visiting?
probably just as important, if not more important, because they may not know what's going on, especially if they're in a place they're not familiar with. God forbid something happens in the middle of the night, they're sleepy, they don't know where they're at. So we always talk about making sure they're familiar and then identify that place outside, that meeting place as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what about fire escape plans? Now, we talked about hotels. Many of them have the escape plans. They have the plans on the doors, or they'll have them in the hallways. What if What if someone is traveling and they don't see those signs there? What do they do?
I would first try and talk to the manager or somebody, staff from the hotel, motel, ask about it, because they should have that posted, obviously. If they don't, I would create my own plan. Take note of what floor I'm on, where's my nearest exit, how do I get to the stairs, or can I get out by a window if you're low enough. And also just make sure, the stairs are very important, because if the fire alarm ever goes off or there is a fire, we don't ever want to use the elevator. So always use the stairs, so make sure we know where those stairs are located.
And can you explain to our viewers why specifically we don't want to use the elevator during a fire?
For a couple of reasons. Elevators can fail in a fire situation, and you could be stuck in between floors, you could be stuck in there. There could be a fire in the elevator shaft, because sometimes we don't know where the fire's at. Sometimes the building loses power, and you're just stuck in that elevator shaft. We may not know you're in there, and the smoke starts coming in, you could be trapped in there. So it's always safer just to use the stairs and get out as fast as you can.
Okay, good for
Yeah.
for the public to hear.
And then too, if you're ever in a hotel, motel, and the fire alarm goes off, it's always important. Always treat that as a real emergency as well. We get a lot of alarm system calls in the city foot off, especially in downtown, and you get to the hotel and the alarm's going off and nobody evacuated. So make sure you treat every alarm as though it is a real emergency until proven otherwise.
Yes.
Always better to be safe than sorry. That's
Yeah.
how.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, any advice for people traveling any other advice for people traveling to stay safe?
Yeah, one thing I would think of is make sure you know the address where you're staying. Because sometimes people don't know exactly, they get to the place, they don't know what it is, they have to call 911. It's like, I don't know what the address is. It's just going to delay getting help. Even something as simple as, north, south, east, west, apartment 1, apartment 2, that can delay getting help. So if you need help immediately, anything delay is going to make it worse. So always know your address, know where you're at. We talk about the hallways, keeping the passageways safe. You come into your place, you may just dump your luggage wherever. Make sure you're keeping your luggage to the side. Keep the hallways pretty clear if we can. There may be a rush to plug in everything. Make sure you're not overloading your outlets, because especially in a place you don't know what kind of the outlets are like. So make sure we're practicing electrical safety. Yeah, again, it's just making sure, try and be safe and being familiar with the location, where you're at, and making sure your children, especially if you have smaller children, I can't emphasize that enough, with the smaller children, make sure they are able to get out, they have to, and know where they're at. So.
And that's great, what you said about not overloading electrical outlets, especially when you're traveling, and you're at Airbnbs, things like that, you don't know what the...
Yeah, and sometimes you get to the place, you may have to charge your phone or your iPad, you just start plugging things in, you're trying to get yourself situated, you're not thinking about that, so.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add regarding summer safety?
A few other things I'll add. One, we talk about fireworks. Those are always big in the summertime.
Yes.
When I'm at Engine 55, we're always getting calls for them, especially on July 4th, Memorial Day and all. We always say first, leave the fireworks to the professionals. That's always the first and foremost thing. But we always still understand people like to use fireworks, use the sparklers and stuff. If you are going to use something, get it from a reliable source. They should be covered by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. So always consider where you're buying them from. Don't buy them just from some random person off the street, And always make sure you properly dispose of them afterwards, and make sure you always use them outside we get a lot of calls, in the summertime for people shooting off fireworks, and they just kind of discard the thing, and then it may set a trash can on fire. So, we're out in the sun a lot, so sunscreen's always a big thing. Even on those days, they always say if it's cloudy, there's always the worst days. Try and wear a hat. Make sure you have to wear long sleeves if you have to. And hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. We can't say that enough. We go on a lot of calls in the summer for people, they get dehydrated very easily, especially in the hot and humidity. They forget about it. So make sure you're drinking lots and lots of water. And just have fun, enjoy yourself.
And even we have to hydrate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially more so for us, especially being in the fire department, and we wear the heavy gear sometimes. It doesn't take much to get us dehydrated. Just sometimes you're responding on a call. You can be dehydrated from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So summer plans, any summer plans for you? Anything that you're looking forward to? And
yeah, actually a couple, going to Jamaica.
Oh.
So that'd be nice,
All right, all right.
So I'll definitely be making sure when we get there that I'm looking at the place, for all the fire safety things that we talked about earlier, making sure I know how to get out, the outlets, and then we're going to Outer Banks later.
Nice.
So that should be nice.
Nice.
And then just having fun at home,
Yeah.
hanging with the family. So
That's
how about you?
great.
Any good plans?
Yeah, well, I just came back from Key West. My husband and I just celebrated our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Key West.
Nice.
Yeah, yes, it was very nice.
Good.
And we're probably a lot this summer going to do a lot of outdoor, doing a lot of concerts.
Okay,
so a
yeah.
lot of outdoor concerts now
Okay,
in
yeah.
the summer. Looking forward to
Sounds
that.
like a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, Lieutenant Mike Kirby, thank you so much for joining us
No
today.
problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. To learn more about the PFD, including fire and life safety information, job opportunities, and how to request free smoke alarms, visit phila.gov/fire. And if you would like to keep up with our show, Freedom from Fire, look for us on Verizon Channel 36, Comcast Channel 56, and LaSalle TV's YouTube page. Also, check out Fireman's Hall Museum, located at 147 North 2nd Street, and meet with our museum curator, firefighter Brian Anderson. I would like to thank our guest, Lieutenant Mike Kirby, once again for joining us today. I also would like to thank you for tuning in and watching. We'll be back in the fall for the next season, but until then, remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe and remain free from fire.